Okay, so apparently, um, people could not hear me initially. So let me know if you can hear me. Just put it on the chat or like do a thumbs up if you can hear me. Let me know if I am audible. Yeah, let me know if I'm audible. Yes, awesome, awesome, awesome. So thank you again for joining me on this live. This is what we do every Wednesday evening, so I don't take it for granted that you're with me this Wednesday evening, keeping me company. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And even as we continue, let's interact together. Um, Share comments, questions on the chat, or even just share why you're here, why this is an important conversation for you. And obviously, that will encourage me to keep going. So please interact with me. Let's interact together. And I just pray that this message of today will cause a shift, right? Because when I share these messages or when I share these teachings, for me, I really want that shift. The same shift that happened in me, I really want that shift in people that will watch this video. So I pray you learn something new. And for the ones who do not have a relationship with Christ, that this will actually be a reason for them to start that journey. Amen. Amen. Today is Church Wednesday. Yeah, so glad to have you guys here. And from the obviously from the title of this live, today we'll be talking about walking in forgiveness. So last week we started this conversation, and if you haven't watched that teaching, please go and watch it right here on this channel. And we talked about what forgiveness is and the practical ways um, of forgiving or forgiveness or walking in forgiveness. So this week we are going deeper, and we are going to be talking about how to actually walk in that forgiveness. Last week was a precursor, or to lay the foundation around this topic. So today is around how to walk in forgiveness, practically walking in forgiveness. Because one thing that I need to share is forgiveness is actually a lifestyle. Yeah. Forgiveness is a lifestyle. And when I say that, obviously I know there's question about, okay, how does that happen? So when we say I forgive you to, let's say, our friends, our husbands, wives, colleagues, whoever that is around us, we say the words, right? We say the words, I forgive you. But beyond the I forgive you, what's the action that you take? Let me tell you something. This same friend, this same husband, this same wife, this same colleague will do something else to offend you, right? Because we are human. We are human and we make mistakes all the time. So forgiveness being a lifestyle dictates that, we should be ready to forgive all the time, because most of the time, especially in relationships or with some of the things that go on around us, people normally repeat their mistakes more often than not, right? And I'm sure you have seen this. And if you have, give me a thumbs up on the reactions. Yeah, share a thumbs up emoji, because I know that most of the time when we forgive someone for doing something, sometimes they repeat that mistake and they even make a bigger mistake, right? And I'm not talking about extremes like what do I call it, betrayals and things like that. I'm talking about small things, like either they say they will do something and they haven't done it, or they don't do it and you catch offense about it. one of the things that you will definitely share with them is, okay, I thought we talked about this and I thought we said we're not doing this again. But forgiveness being a lifestyle dictates that we should always forgive. And I'm not saying do not confront. Confrontation is healthy as long as you're doing it in the right way. And confrontation is having conversations around what this particular offense has done to you and making that person understand if they're willing to understand. And sometimes confrontation is, I forgive you, you did me wrong, and you walk away. Because sometimes having conversations most of the time does not help the situation, it actually makes it worse. Yeah. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. For me, this particular teaching is just to give a clear picture of how this principle should actually work in your life. And why I'm teaching about this principle is forgiveness actually affects your life. Being offended and being forgiving affects your life in every aspect. Every aspect of your life is affected by either offense or by forgiveness. So forgiveness is and offense affects, our careers, our relationships, everything concerning us, right? So as I mentioned, you can either be offended or you can choose to forgive. And if you don't choose to forgive and you walk in offense, it will definitely affect these areas, this main area. So your career, your relationships, your environment in a negative way. And that's a fact. It's not Rahel saying, it is a fact. So I'm not sharing about this topic because it's just another topic for this Wednesday evening. No, I am sharing and teaching about this because this is a principle. And this principle affects your destiny. And it can affect your destiny in a negative way or in a positive way. Yeah. So when we talk about destiny, obviously your destiny is who you are, what you are, and forgiveness being a lifestyle obviously affects all that and everything concerning your destiny. And let's even get by a show of hands, and you can put the hand on the comment section or you can do an emoji. Let me see. You got offended today by anything that offended you. Just show me. Let me see. How many of you got offended today? How many of you got offended today? Yeah? How many of you got offended today? So either someone cut you off the road or someone promised you something they did not deliver. Do you know? Someone said something to you that made you give them, that eye. Do you know that eye that our moms used to give us when we used to ask them for such, silly things, or when we used to do really silly mistakes? You know that eye. How many of you? Let me see. Let me see. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah. And I am here raising my hand because this is me as well, right? And how many times does this happen in a day or a week? Like, how many times do you get offended in a day or a week, right? How many times? How many times do you get offended in a day or a week? I'm sure so many times. So many times, right? So imagine you get offended all these many times, and because it will happen. Offense is like almost like a daily thing. So imagine holding on to all these things, right? Holding on to all these offenses. So someone cuts you off the road, someone says something, so you're carrying all these things. So imagine holding on to these things. All these things are just piling piling because it happens many times a day or in a week. So it's piling up. So what does this do to you, right? When you pile up um, all these things, what does it do to you? What does it do to your emotional system? Because this is happening, this other thing is happening before you even catch a break. This other thing is happening. Imagine, what does it do to you? And I mean, when you think about even the world we are living in, and let's not even go very far here in because right now I'm in Kenya, with what is happening right now. A lot is happening right now, and there's such a good reason for all of us to be offended with what we are seeing around us. Like, even yesterday when we saw the girls, the way they were breaking down for their friend, for their classmate, that's a reason to be offended, because it is something else, right? Whatever is happening right now is something else, right? So just imagine carrying all these offenses each and every day, many times a day. So you're getting offended. So imagine carrying all of these things, carrying them in your heart, right? So you have all these things harbored in you. And most of the time, when you get all these things in your heart and they, come into you, come into your heart, most of the time, even when these people that have offended you come around you, so you see that colleague who offended you around the corner in the office, you just start feeling this thing coming up. You start boiling up, right? And you look at them and you're like, you better not try me today, right? We have had those moments where we feel this feeling when we see this person who offended us. And I mean, we do this quite a lot. And I will raise my hand and say, I have had these moments, not once, not twice. I have had these moments with my friends, with people around me. And then most of the time when they offend us, especially people who are close to us, because we love the people who are close to us like ours, most of the time we withdraw, right? Or we become silent. So it's a silent war in our houses. Or sometimes we even get to the extreme of revenging. Like, you came late today. Okay. Even me tomorrow, I'm going to come late. Right? So it becomes almost like a way of life. And then we are carrying all these things, we are carrying them. Every other day we are carrying them, we are revenging, we are becoming silent, we are withdrawing, all these things. Right? So when you hear people saying, or when you think about this word, an angry person, right? Why do you think those people got angry? Because angry now has become their identity. So why do you think people get this angry? And why do you label someone as that angry guy, that angry girl, that angry woman? What gets them to this level? Think about it for a minute. What gets to this level? And I will confess, that was my title, right? That was my title for a very long time. Everyone around me used to ask me, Rahel, why are you always mad? Why are you always angry? Like, your face is just angry all the time. Yeah? And typical Rahel, being defensive. When someone tells me that, I will be defensive, and obviously that did not help, right? And then when someone tells me that, because I definitely want them not to reject me, I would mask that anger, because internally, yes, I was angry and it was showing up physically on my face. So, rejection, I used to mask that anger. So I put on a fake smile. Oh, yes, I did. I put on those fake smiles at work, in relationships with my friendships. I put on that fake smile, right? And it was a defense mechanism, and that's what it's called, a defense mechanism. So you are defensive, like with words, but you're also defensive with your nature, putting on fake smiles. And I mean, anything fake has a lifeline. It definitely has a lifeline. It cannot last forever, right? And the fact that I was putting on this fake smile, I was being fake around people, obviously that even fueled my anger a little bit more because I had the wrong people around me. So I was faking it in front of them. They were taking the fakeness, they were running with the fakeness. They were not seeing, oh my goodness, there's something wrong with me. And that's what happens, right? When we are in this place where we are emotionally dysregulated, or we have an emotional deficiency, we always think that people around us will see it even through the fake smiles. But most of the time, they do not. And that's why more pressed put on these smiles. And then when they go to the extremes of, doing something, either cutting off their lives prematurely. Oh my goodness, why did this happen? I thought this guy was happy. I thought this person was like this. No. And that's why you need the right people around you. Because the right people around you will tell, right? Either this person is faking. Sometimes they can tell, sometimes they can't tell. Anyway, so obviously, this defense mechanism within me affected my health seriously, and I shared about this in the last live last week. So please go and share. No, sorry, go and watch and see and hear what I talked about in terms of this particular area of my life. So offense actually, it grows, and it becomes a disease. So it becomes a disease literally and also figuratively because it affects you, right? It affects who you are. And that's why I mentioned anger became my identity, right? And as it became my identity and as this monster grew, it became a disease. You heard me right. Offense is a disease. And it has a cure. Good thing it has a cure, right? So this offense, obviously, even in my case, it affected my relationships because, I mean, who wants to be around an angry person all the time, or someone who complains all the time because of Jerry or Brian who broke her heart or who did this, so angry? Who wants to be around an angry person or a complainer all the time, right? So it affects your identity and it affects your health. And I mean, if it affects all that, who would want to promote someone like that at their workplace? Who is always angry, does not work well with others? So relationships are affected. Who would want to promote someone like that? So sometimes some of the things that are happening in our lives, the challenges that are happening in our lives are self induced, right? So offenses are growing in your heart. You become an angry person. You do not work well with others because your relationships are affected. Then no promotions, no good relationships around us. So offenses actually cause a ripple effect. And most of the time, we do not see this because we are like, oh, it's normal to catch feelings. And yes, it is because we are emotional beings. But then what do you do about that? Because if you, that ripple effect will actually happen, whether you like it or not. Yeah. And one thing that I need to share is offense, by the way, most of the time, it's not always loud, as I mentioned. So it manifests as, silence, you withdraw. So you don't want to be around people, or you withdraw, you don't want to be around your friend. And sometimes even criticism, right? And let me share this practically. So have you ever had someone who wronged you talk and you're like, who do they think they are? So this person offended you, and then they come speaking, saying something, and then you're like, who does this person think they are? Who do they think they are? Right? So you criticize them, and it always starts by they. One thing, this offense does, it starts with inward criticism. So you criticize yourself for who you are. So like what I shared earlier, so when people tell me, Rahel, you are angry, you're like this, so I start criticizing myself internally. I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm like this. Why is it that people are rejecting me? Why is it that relationships are not working and all that? So I criticize myself, and that's when I start putting on the fake smile, fake face, and all that, so that people can accept me. And then when they don't, right, when they don't accept me because they are seeing who I am and they are attributing me with this identity of anger, the next thing that happens after inward criticism is outward criticism. And how does outward criticism show up? Right? So it shows up as gossip, right? So we start gossiping and we're like, oh, did you see her? Anajifanya ako hivi ama hivi. Who does she think she is? Look at her. Look at her hair. Look at her, all that. Just because internally we have criticized ourselves, or we criticize ourselves, and because it's not enough, we start criticizing outwardly to other people and start gossiping. Actually, that's how gossip starts. It's because we have a deficiency within ourselves, but most of the time we do not see it. Right? So, because we are avoiding our own deficiencies, we start looking at others. And because this thing now is a monster and it's growing and it's growing and it's growing, it now turns into anger because you're not happy with yourself, you're not happy with other people. So it becomes this anger, right? Then you see all these people who have offended you, you're just angry all the time. So this monster is growing. So an offense, a small offense, has grown into this monster. So a small offense happens, you start criticizing yourself inwardly, then you start criticizing others outwardly. You start becoming angry. So it becomes a big monster. Yeah. So imagine, with all the offenses we are carrying, the monsters that are actually on our shoulders, with all the offenses that we have. And it started as a very small offense, right? Someone did not open the door for you, or, someone on you, or someone did not night, you know? And then slowly by slowly, it has become this monster. And I mean, who wants to be around a big monster carrier? Like, who wants to be around someone who's carrying all these offenses and it has become this monster? Because when they carry this monster, then it becomes their identity. And let me just share some characteristics of these people so that you actually see what I'm talking about. And maybe you can even make it more practical to yourself and the people that are around you. And if you're with me, please give me a thumbs up emoji if you're still there. And if you're still following, give me a thumbs up emoji to show me that you're still there. So, characteristics of such people. So, number one, they are always angry, as we said. So, if anger grows, you'll become angry. So they're always, even about the smallest of things. Oh my goodness. I know you have been around such people, and I know you have been that person as well. I know I have been, right? It's cold. You just start complaining about the cold. Something so small. You start complaining. Number two, they never see the good in people. I mean, that's outward criticism. So they never see the good in people. There's always something about someone, right? So they never see the good in people. They never celebrate even people around them because they have this outward criticism mentality. right? Number three, they're just not pleasant to be around. They are just not pleasant to be around. They are just, their energy is just, it's negative, right? Because they are angry, they are complaining. Who would want to be around such people? So they are not pleasant to be around with. Number four, hey, this is a big one. This is a big one. They never ever think there's anything wrong with them. It's always other people. So when you point out something about them that is wrong with them, they will never think about it. They will either turn it back to you or they will become defensive. And number five, yes, being defensive. So they are always defensive. When people point out their bad behaviors, they are always defensive because they never think that there's anything wrong with them. And imagine all this is because of offense, right? So my point is, the more you carry offense, the more it becomes your identity. That's a fact. The more you carry offense, the more it becomes your identity. So that term, angry black woman, was not formed because of anything else. It is because of all the offenses that black women, particularly, have been carrying for all these years. And it has become their identity until it's become cultural. The mad black woman, I'm sure you've heard about that. And we're not talking about that today, but I hope you get the point. Yeah. So offense, the more it becomes your identity. And what does that do? Right? It affects your destiny. It affects everything around you, which is your destiny. So if you don't have good relationships or you don't have the right relationships that are good around you, because again, offenses have caused you not to attract the right relationships, then if you don't have a job where you thrive because you're being promoted or because people are seeing what you're doing, what you're contributing towards, and it is good, who will you blame for this? If you don't have relationships that are good around you, a job where you're not thriving, a career that is not thriving, who should you blame? I will ask this again. Who should you blame? But do you know who we blame most of the time? Our childhood, right? Whoever hurt you. And we have so many excuses about why things are not working out for us. Oh, my childhood was like this. Oh, this person hurt me. That's why I'm not in a relationship. Oh, I hate men. That's why this and this is not happening to me because I was hurt by a man. Like, we have so many excuses about who to blame. And you know, when someone points out some of these things that have become our identity, we say, oh, this is how I am. Oh, this is how I've been. Oh, ask anyone around you. This is who I am. Oh, I know, because I did that as well. But who you are is actually blocking your destiny. Who you are is blocking your destiny. And as this offense grows, right? Because it's now blocked your destiny. And as the offense grows, it also blocks your intimacy with God. Because it hardens your heart. Offense hardens your heart. Anger hardens your heart. Right? Because if you have a deep relationship with God, He will definitely rebuke you. When you get offended, He will rebuke you. And obviously, you'll start seeing things from a different lens. And you will not even allow that offense to go beyond a certain time. And that's why the Bible says, do not allow the sun to go down when you're angry. Right? And that's why I keep on saying the Bible has the blueprint for everything about our lives, but we only use it periodically. It's a manual that can support everything that we need for our lives. So read your Bible, guys. Anyway, so the spirit of this spirit of offense, right? It's always about me. This spirit of offense. And that's why when I was sharing the characteristics, it's when someone points out something about you, you don't even think about it. You always think that there's something wrong with them just because they've pointed out something wrong with you. And what does that do? Pride. Yeah. So look at all these things that we've talked about that offense does. So offense creates an identity, which is anger. There's criticism and all that. And now pride. So this topic might look like it's very, a simple topic. And it is a simple topic, but the implications of walking in offense has such catastrophic effects in your life. So when you have this spirit of offense, this spirit of pride, how will your prayers go? How will God answer your prayers? Right? How will God answer your prayers when your heart is blocked, when your mind is blocked, and you're just walking with offense, with pride? And most of the time, when we blame God for not answering our prayers, because we do that quite a lot, we never think about ourselves. We always think that either God does not love you enough or there's something wrong. And that's why we end up turning to other things, because we do not want to be right with God. We want the easy way out. We do not want to forgive others. We do not want to, walk in forgiveness because it's hard. Why should I let this person off the hook and yet they did this and that and that? But you can see this ripple effect. And this ripple effect gets to this place even where God does not answer your prayers, because why will God give you all the great things that He has promised you, knowing that you might misuse them? Why? And I mean, God is a loving God. He blesses us even if we do wrong. He's faithful. But most of the time, our prayers, and we do not get to our destiny, or we do not live out our destiny, because sometimes God cannot entrust us with these things that He really wants to give us, because we are not walking in His ways. We are walking in offense. We are walking in pride. Right? So why will God give you a husband or a wife when He knows you will mistreat them? Or children who will inherit your bad behavior? Why should God do that? But do you know what we do as human beings? And because we have a pride in our hearts, we go our own way. We marry the wrong people because we are trying to fill our hearts with something. Because most of the time when we are offended, when all these things are happening, there's an emptiness that comes within you, right? So you end up marrying just to fill that emptiness. So you marry wrong, right? And when you marry wrong, you become even more angry because you realize you have married wrong and there's nothing most of the time you can do. Right? We bring up angrier children than even ourselves, and the cycle continues. So I'm saying this even without fear of conviction, that I believe offense is the seed that is causing everything that is happening around us. Even the world that we are in, whatever is happening around you, think about it. One person, two people, three people got angry and decided they are going to create a system to work for them. And that's why before they give you access to this system, you have to give them something, which is wrong. So there's pride. So everything around you, everything that you have allowed to happen around you just because of that small offense is your own doing. So your life not moving forward, you being angry, you feeling depressed, you having all these diseases, you doing all these things, or these things happening to you, most of the time it's the world you have created for yourself. Don't throw stones at me. It's just a fact, right? And just to go deeper and make it practical, let's talk about someone actually in the Bible, um, and how this actually affected him. And this is Moses. We know Moses, right? And Moses had such a great destiny. I mean, when his mother put him in that basket that flowed on River Nile, then Pharaoh's daughter found him, raised him, and everything that happened to him. And God, like Moses saw God through the burning bush. Like God had so much favor on Moses, and he gave him a promise. And he revealed his destiny clearly to him. Even when he felt unworthy, God said, "No, you're the person that I've chosen, and this is your destiny." And he went and delivered the children of Israel from Egypt after 430 years. That's literally like, if there's anything great, that is great. So Moses had this great destiny, this great promise from God that he will lead the children of Israel to the promised land. That's what God told Moses. And you all know the story if you've read the Bible, how when the children of Israel were led out of Egypt, they obviously had moments of complaining, being angry, being unsatisfied. Oh my goodness. A lot of things happened with Moses being the leader. And if I was in his shoes, I think probably the same thing will have happened to me. And so we see in Numbers chapter 20. So Moses grows weary. He's so frustrated. These guys are complaining, grumbling, and he had done so much for them. And you remember, he didn't even want this, but God decided, you're the one for this. So he does everything that God is instructing him. And if you read through the first chapters of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, like God gave him so many instructions and he followed each and every one of them. And the children of Israel were, you know, still complaining, grumbling, and yet they were fed. Yet they had all these things. And after 430 years, why are you complaining? Yeah. So this in Numbers 20, so the children of Israel want water, and God, tells Moses to speak to the rock. After Moses went to him and asked him, Lord, you need to give us this water. These children of Israel are crying for. And God tells Moses, speak to the rock and water will come out. But because offense had grown so much in Moses' heart, so much offense, because of all these things that were happening, the complaining, the grumbling, and all these things, and he was angry. The anger led to frustration. So he struck the rock. It led him to strike the rock. When God specifically told him to speak to the rock. But the frustration led him to strike the rock. Yeah. And because of this, God said to him, and you can read this in your Bible, because you did not trust in me enough to honor me as holy, you will not bring this community into the land I give them. This is Numbers 20, verse 12. So you can imagine, after Moses did all that he had done, right? The one destiny, like this was the ultimate part of his destiny, going into that promised land, was taken away from him because of offense, because offense grew in his heart to become anger, to become frustration. And obviously, that led him not to obey God. Because one of the things when you walk in forgiveness, you hear the voice of God clearly and you follow his instructions. So, this offense, the anger, led Moses not to get into the promise that God had given him. So, he missed out on his destiny, yet, the ones he was leading got to that destiny or got to the promised land. And to be honest, this is the story of so many of us, right? Um, Especially as a leader, and not just a leader, any title that you have, an employee, a husband, wife, a daughter, son, whichever title you have, right? This is the story of many of us. This is the story of many of us. So life comes at us in different ways. So we give our all at work, in our families, in our relationships. We do everything. And sometimes we are just, we're just there. We do our part as brothers, as sisters, as daughters, sons. We do our part as employees. But people, they try us, right? They try us in many ways. And they betray us sometimes. They frustrate us. And you're like, what did I do to deserve that betrayal? What did I do to deserve all that after I chose to love you with all my heart? I thought you were my father. I thought you were my mom. I thought blood is thicker. I thought you were my sister. I thought you were my brother. I thought blood is thicker. Why would you do this or that to me? But we are called to forgive, right? Because as I mentioned in the last session, the more we carry all these offenses, it becomes a prison. And I'm not saying don't go through your motions, because being hurt is hurt. Go through the motions and even ask God to give you that strength to forgive, because sometimes the betrayals cut so deep, so deep. But it's a command. We are called to forgive. And you see, when you're carrying all these offenses, they become a prison. You can never move forward. Just like Moses, one mistake made him not to move to the next level, which was going into the promised land. So being in this prison obviously will make you not move forward. And as I mentioned last time, even scientifically, it has been proven that this offense, this prison that we built around ourselves, causes us to even become sick. So scientifically, it has been proven that most diseases, especially autoimmune diseases, are because of emotional issues such as anger, bitterness, all these emotional issues. And then it leads to depression. And then obviously the disease becomes more than we can even imagine, or it becomes a chronic disease. So these teachings on forgiveness and these teachings that I'm sharing, they are for your life. So they are not, just to pass time or anything of the sort. This is what will set you free to live a life of peace, to live a life of joy, to fulfill your destiny. And I had to learn this, obviously, the hard way, right? I had to learn this the hard way. And when I decided to let go completely, it brought me such freedom. And let me tell you, I am 30 plus years. So you can imagine everything I had carried for all those years. I had carried so much. But the minute I released them, and it was a process for me, when I released everything, everyone who had caused me such hurt and pain, it brought me such freedom. And as I mentioned in the last live, even I got healed from a disease that I had for 28 years. And let me tell you, I am in so much peace. Like even people sometimes when they look at me, even the way I'm speaking right now, they're like, Rahel, yes, this is forgiveness. This is what forgiveness can do. And it has caused such a significant shift in my life, my career, my relationships, just because of walking in forgiveness. And as we come to an end of this live, I just want to share some practical ways in which we can walk in forgiveness. And how do we make it a principle? So last time we read that Jesus commanded that we forgive 70 times 7 times. And I don't know whoever counts how many times they forgive. Like, I don't know if you say, I've forgiven you 5 times or I've forgiven you 20 times. You can never keep count of how many times you forgive someone, which means that you should forgive always, right? You can never count how many times you can forgive someone. So for me, and the interpretation that I have from this command by Jesus is you have to forgive always. And even in the Lord's Prayer, it says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive others. So what this means is God cannot forgive you, or you cannot ask God to forgive you unless you have forgiven other people. And how many times do you fail? Right? How many times do you fail? How many times do you fail for God to actually forgive you? How many times do you fail for God to forgive you? So many times, right? So many times. So many times. And if God forgives you, what gives you the right not to forgive others? And that's why I shared earlier that God sometimes does not answer our prayers because we harbor this unforgiveness in our hearts. Because even in the Lord's Prayer, I've just shared it just now, even in the Lord's Prayer, it says, forgive us as we forgive others. So if you're asking him to forgive and forgive you and you haven't forgiven others, then how does that happen? So one of the things that, let me share this, one of the things that led to my healing and getting to this place of peace was being intentional about who I needed to forgive, especially from my past. It was very intentional. And it was one of the toughest things I believe I have had to do as I started this journey. It was one of the toughest things. And it was so hard because I kept on asking myself, why am I forgiving this person? Do they even deserve forgiveness? And to answer that question, yes, they deserve forgiveness because we need to walk in our destinies. We need to have our destinies fulfilled. And how do you know your destiny is fulfilled? When you have the right relationships with around you, when you have a thriving career, when everything around you just fits in place. And that does not mean you're not going to have challenges. You will have challenges. But when everything around you comes together well, and you just feel at the end of the day you're sleeping and you're at peace, that is destiny. So destiny is not about amassing money or living in that big house or anything of the sort. For me, actually, that fulfillment at the end of the day, the peace. For me, peace is everything. For me, actually, peace is a sign of success. Peace of mind. So that was one of the toughest things that I had to do. And as we end this live, what I would want each and every one of you to do, either if you're watching right now or if you'll watch later on, this is something that I want to do, you to do, because this is what set me free. So if you're watching with your phone or have a notepad near you, just open the notepad on your phone, or take that notepad around you, and I want you to start thinking about everyone who has offended you. Everyone, from when you are young to where you are right now. I want you to start writing. So that friend, so write their name, your mom if it's your mom, your dad if it's your dad, your uncle if it's your uncle, your sister if it's your sister. Start writing. And for me, what I did is I even wrote their names. Yeah. So take your time, write. So write your dad for abandoning you when you are young, right? That guy or that girl who broke your heart. So write it down, and their name. That employer who fired you, right? After you had given them your all. Write them down. Write their name, even the name of that boss. Write it down. Just write. The tears flowing, and even if it's taking you back to a place where you don't even want to remember, just write it down. Write it down. Write those names, even with tears flowing. Write it down. Write it down. Yeah. And if you need time, take your time. I know we cannot obviously do it all right now. So, this is something that I would love for you to do. So, as I said, for me, it was a process. It took a while. And I had a long, a very long list, long list. And this is even for the people you said you had forgiven with words, but you did not necessarily forgive fully. So, write that list. Write that list. And after writing that list, I want you to take this bold step. It is a very, very bold step. I would want you to reach out to the ones you can reach out to, if you can. And not the ones who, like if someone violated you, you don't need to reach out to them. You can forgive them by mentioning their names, but reach out to the ones that you can reach out to. And practically how I did this is I had to send messages to some of these people, emails I had to send. And for some of them, I even had to meet them. Like I had to have meetings with them. So I requested for meetings, and I met with some of the people who are on my list. And let me tell you, one of the things that happened, even when I spoke to these people, even when I shared these messages and emails, is when they responded, they said such positive things, and they felt like something was lifted off of them. And that's why I said in the last live, this process is, yes, for you, but also for the other person. But mostly for yourself, for your destiny. So I know it will take some time for some of you, and please take your time, because one thing for me is I had to sit and now recall, a lot of people, a lot of things that happened in my past that I thought I had gotten over, but clearly I had not. And I was in tears with, tears falling down my eyes. I just wrote every name. And even as you're making that list, I'd love to share a prayer with you that you can share, or that you can make at the end, after the end of the list. And I pray that this will be the start of liberation and freedom, because let me tell you, you will feel lighter. You will really feel lighter at the end of that prayer, at the end of this process. You will feel so light. And then you will start seeing things happening in your life. God will just start revealing himself in so many ways. The blessings that you have been praying for, you will see some of them coming. And I'm not telling you this just for the sake of saying this is something that has happened to me and it is still happening. So after you write that list, please say this prayer. So just say, Lord, I release X to you. So the name of the person, Lord, I release the name of the person to you. Forgive them for doing X. Forgive me for also not knowing better because I was just a child or because I did not know any better. Forgive me for carrying this as an offense for all these years. And I release this offense to you right now. Heal me as you heal them. In Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So that's a simple prayer. And I pray that, as I said, it will start making, a change in your life because you will see it. Release them. And one thing that I'll share is when I was sending those messages, I just told them, I forgive you. I did not mention to them, I forgive you for X, 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 X. No, because I had released it. So I just told them, I forgive you for everything, for the ones that I needed to forgive for a lot of things. So I said, I forgive you for everything. And that was it. And for the ones I had conversations with, most of them wanted to recall the situation. And I had allowed them because sometimes, as I said, when you offend other people or when offense gets to you or when you catch offense, most of the time you don't see the other person, you see yourself. So sometimes when you have this conversation, the other person will tell you, this is what this situation also made me feel. And that now brings healing to both of you. So I pray that this has really helped you and you will start walking in forgiveness and your life will start changing. There will be a significant shift in your life and you will walk in that path of your destiny because, as I said, this will put you on that path. So thank you everyone for joining. I pray that you had, you learned something. And as I said previously, please feel free to reach out to me directly on my social media. I am always ready to, have conversations because I'm still on that journey, right? On that journey to learn more about who God is, what I need to do, walking in obedience. And I pray that this will definitely do something for you. So thank you. And for the ones who will watch this later on, I pray that it will bless you. And I pray that we will all start walking in that journey of forgiveness. So thank you, everyone, and have a good night.